Thank you very much, Kudlu, for a nice introduction. I think we had a terrific presentation before this. I'll be talking on biomechanics. I think that is the in thing in a refractive surgery as such. No financial disclosure from my side in this particular talk. I think understanding corneal biomechanics is of great importance in the field of cornea and refractive surgery as such, and the precise measurement of corneal biomechanical properties have an important role in not only in a pre-operative assessment but for a post-operative assessment for all cornea refractive surgery patients. And we know that there are various aspects of cornea, its tissue relationship. The procedures will determine the biomechanics pre and post-op after refractive procedure. You can measure biomechanic properties of cornea by ex vivo techniques or in vivo techniques. We are basically looking into aura and symphylic based dynamic symphylic tomographer, that is Corvis. And other devices which is going to be future is Brilliant spectroscopy, optical coherence elastography, and dynamic video keratoscopy, maybe other future things to help understanding this. We all know the corneal anatomy and its biomechanics. The density of collagen lamellae and the interlamellar branching is more extensive anterior stroma. We all know that posterior stroma lamellae show little less interlacing and lamellae are more parallelly arranged. If you look into this old X-ray picture, which tells you the arrangement of corneal lamellae, which is orthogonally oriented in the central part of the cornea. In the periphery, they are circumferentially annulus way of looking into this corneal modality. So you have a depth dependent anterior stroma is at least 3 to 8 times stiffer than a posterior stroma. While looking to radius dependent, we know that anterior stroma centrally is stiffer, but posterior stroma is peripherally the most stiffer than the central part of the cornea. Why people have not get the same result of every patient, every cornea? Why every patient not 6 by 6? Why some patients are very unhappy in terms of a poor visual quality, induction of higher order operation, or a patient's having some sort of a post-operative regression? Why some patients develop ectasia? We have to look into those answers. Maybe biomechanical response or analysis of a cornea may give us some explanation for these patients. In terms of pre-op screening for these patients, we have just talked about topographical, tomographical indices. Now we are thinking of a biomechanical combination that tomographical indices might give us a more answer for a patient undergoing refractive procedures. And as I discussed earlier, keratoconus diagnosis is simple. Any methods of indices will give you a clear keratoconus diagnosis. It is those cases of subclinical keratoconus where I think tomography is definitely will be helpful, and the indices like TBI and the SPA1 will definitely give us a more opportunity to have a better diagnosis. So TBI is tomography and biomechanical index, and while looking into a stiffness parameter, if you do, these two are combined, maybe you can understand better form of fistulae keratoconus, or to have a better diagnosis of early or a subclinical keratoconus, which is a new terminology. There are various ethnic variations. Various literature reports will have a different parameters. If you look into this, various studies will give you a different cutoffs for these patients to screen the former first keratoconus in terms of a tomographic biomechanical indices. But recently, if you look into 2021, Ren et al. And Guo et al. In 2021, they have come out with the stiffness parameters. And that seems to give you a better understanding of patients who may develop a subsequent problem after refractive procedure. Let me just give you one example of tomographic of a case. If you look into right eye, and if you don't see the left eye, the right eye looks quite normal, but left eye has a definite keratoconus. So how would tomography give help in these indices? So you have CBI, TBI, and bad D in this patient. You can see bad D is within normal limits or just a borderline, but looking to CBI and TBI, they are abnormal. So this is a patient, if you have to see this only, we can diagnose this as subclinical keratoconus. Looking into other eye is a definite case of form of first aid. So surgery should be avoided in this particular case. This another case, if you look into this 4-quad map from Pentacam, does have a little bit of inferior steepening. But if you look into a pachymetry map, which is absolutely normal in this patient, little bit of posterior elevation. So suspicious case, the tomography indices should be abnormal in this patient, as bad D is grossly abnormal. Looking into a bad D, which is abnormal, and see the TBI is also abnormal. So these two indices indicate the patient would have a keratoconus. But you look into a CBI, which is a biomechanical indices, is within normal limits. So such cases, you have to explore the other possibility of why this particular indices is not coming to an abnormal site. So this may be early case of subclinical keratoconus, or sometimes if you have bad T and TBI normal, but only CBI is abnormal, in such cases that Dr. Namrata was talking about, the epithelial hyperplasia may be in consideration. So in these cases, you have to do epithelial mapping as such. This is the other eye, which is a frank keratoconus. Therefore, if you go back, this eye will be labeled as a former fester keratoconus. This is a case number 3. You can see absolutely normal 4-quad map with the posterior anterior elevation and pachymetry is normal. In this patient, the Berlin-Ambrosio parameters are also normal. But if you do a tomographic indices in this patient, you can see that BAT is normal. TBI is in a range of borderline, while CBI is totally abnormal. So these are various variety of pre-op assessment you can get with the tomographic biomechanical indices. And in other eye also has frank keratoconus as such. In such cases, one more parameter may be helpful when you look for SSI. That is, if you look into the stress strain index of a patient, is definitely abnormal in this particular case. And that is, this particular index is a single parameter, which is non-dependent of IOP and corneal thickness. So this will be better added parameter for diagnosing early cases of form of fester keratoconus. So this is how we look into treatment modalities for based on all these tomography devices. If you are normal D and CBI, TBI is normal, you can proceed for surgery. But any of one of these or two parameters abnormal, then you have to observe this patient and decide subsequently. While looking for a post-op one, I think that is more important for us, looking for a patient who has developed ectasia or patient biomedical indices are impacted by various surgical modalities, surgical techniques, and as well as healing process of cornea. And intraocular pressure may also be helpful in these cases. So these are various factors which may decrease the biomechanic strength of a cornea because of a refractive laser procedure. And if you look to surface ablation, will be the best in terms of maintaining the biomechanical strength of a cornea. And if you look into a cross-linking, which Dr. Chitra was talking about, definitely the indices will be better after cross-linking of cornea. Comparing SMILE versus LASIK in terms of a CBI and TBI and the strength of a cornea, various studies have shown that SMILE has a better corneal biomechanical strength than the LASIK. And if you compare LASIK, femtosecond LASIK and microkeratome-induced LASIK, SMILE does have a much better biomechanical strength than a microkeratome-induced surgeries. This is a study by Dr. Sethi et al., Rohit Sethi et al., where they looked into a tissue healing and biomechanical properties. And they realized that if you look into all three aspects, that is tissue healing, that is judged by a Bowman's roughening index, as well as the corneal deformation after Corbis. They found that healing is much faster with SMILE. If you see all these three curves, corneal speckles, BRI, and corneal deformation, they were rapidly improved in a SMILE patient. Therefore, the healing process is faster. Therefore, biomechanical strength will be better in a SMILE patient. But if you compare with a surface ablation with SMILE, it is quite comparative. But if you just look into a biomechanical outcome with a Corbis, comparable. But if you just look to the aura, SMILE seems to be better or equal to a LASIK or PRK in these cases. And the other important aspect which I would like to discuss here is the post laser vision correction display, DCR display in these cases. This is pre laser vision correction dynamic corneal response. And this is the post laser vision correction dynamic corneal response. If you have a comparative value of these two, then you can know what has happened actually in these cases. So you can see this is the comparative results pre and post laser vision correction indices. You can see here, if you look into a DA ratio, that is will be non-significant asset, but if you look, definitely there is a towards the trend that this is decreased. Similarly, corneal thickness wise, the cornea has become softer after the treatment. And more importantly, as I discussed, SSI, that is also towards going towards the left-hand side, that tells that the corneal stiffness is also decreased in particular case. So this comparative analysis will be much helpful in the cases for a subsequent future analysis of these patients. So we know that characteristic of corneal tissue and the intrinsic character of individual patient and its healing response and the treatment related factor like a flap or a cap or ablation, surface ablation will decide the actual biomechanical strength by corneal tomography or assessed by corneal biomechanical indices in these cases. As we discussed, the incidence of ectasia is quite less, but we understand that if you look into an ectasia patient subsequently with only looking into a CBI and TBI may not be accurate because they are meant for a normal cornea. Therefore, to look for abnormal cornea, we have to have a different indices. That is what Vinciguerra has published now in 2021, where this CBI LBC index gives you a better analysis of a patient of low laser vision correction, ectasia or no ectasia. Though it may not be appropriate for assessing the assessing the case for a future development of ectasia, but it is good for ectasia diagnosis as such. If you look into this, if you take a cutoff 0.2 as a cutoff, then sensitivity is almost 93% and specificity is also almost 98%. So this laser CBI LBC is better indices to pick up a case of post laser vision ectasia. So if you see this patient of BSR, you can just see that CBI is 0.99. So if you click onto the new software, which is post LBC software, so you can see that it gives you a 0 CBI. So this is a normal post laser vision cornea without ectasia as such. This is another patient. See, all the results are higher. CBI is 0.99. But if you click onto the laser vision new software, the CBI still remains higher. So this is the post laser vision corrected case of an ectasia access. So that is how you differentiate the two group of cases. So to summarize, if you look into only corneal biomechanics, the CBI and TBI does have some limitation to pick up a case which is going to go into a ectasia subsequently, or a patient to differentiate ectasia versus no ectasia in a post laser vision correction cornea. So these parameters are definitely also altered by intraocular pressure and corneal thickness. But if you look into just looking into a stiffness parameter, this is SSI, which may be a single best parameter to decide the stiffness of cornea as such. The future will be to look into a cornea into entirety, and which can give you a detailed indices for each layer of cornea, and also cross-linking a treatment and subsequent biomechanical analysis of these patients after cross-linking would also help. But I think the few important aspects will be look into a stress strain index maps, which is non-dependent of IOP and corneal thickness, or a brilliant microscopy to give you a more analysis of corneal indices. OCT elastography may also help. But I think the polarization sensitive OCT is the one which is going to give you a corneal laminar structures. And based on that, you will have a much more biomechanical analysis of a cornea. And if you can predict cornea beforehand, which may or may not go into ectasia, or after surgery, you can differentiate between ectasia and no ectasia, will be greatly helpful for a patient, for a post-refractive surgery patients. Thank you.